So in order for us to make 050 Winter Drive to order at 6 p.m. January 7th, 2021. As a reminder, if you are on our Zoom meeting as a participant, please put yourself on mute unless you're speaking. We're currently live streaming this meeting on the city YouTube channel and on Lake County Cable TV live stream YouTube channel. To begin, Madam Clerk, can I please have a roll call?
Councilmember Kramer.
Here.
Councilmember Overton. Here. Councilmember Clappy.
Here.
Vice Mayor Furlong.
Here.
Mayor Sluten.
Here. Please stand for pledge of allegiance. David, would you?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Vice Mayor Furlong, would you be the honor of the invocation, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Our dear Father in heaven, we come to you with heavy hearts, and we ask that you would join with us tonight as we ask for your guidance, for your wisdom, for your leadership, and your spirit to be with us tonight as we do the business for the city of Clearlake. But also we ask for calm to reduce anxieties and fears for a great nation that is struggling right now. We ask for peace and calm, and we say this in the spirit, in the name of your holy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. While we're operating under virtual meeting guidelines, I'll explain our meeting procedures. Agenda items will be up for public comment before final action is taken. Citizen wishing to comment on any agenda item could email the city clerk or submit their comment through our town hall portal. Comments received will be read aloud by either myself or a staff member during the agenda item. If you're on Zoom, please raise your hand to speak and you'll be called upon. If remote participants encounter technical difficulties, I will ask that we continue discussing the item and the participant can rejoin when the technical difficulties are resolved. Again, if you're a participant who's not speaking, please mute your computer to prevent distraction from the current speaker. First item on the agenda, Mr. Flora, are there any modifications or changes to the agenda?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor,
I move that we accept the agenda as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Kramer and a second by Councilwoman Overton to adopt the agenda. A voice vote, please. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we'll move on to presentations at this particular point. We have a presentation by the Blue Ribbon Committee for the rehabilitation of Clearlake. Mr. City Manager will be doing this.
Administrative Services Director Cheryl Swanson, do you know for sure? Are you promoting them?
Yes, I am promoting them to the panelists. Sophie Carrillo, Mender, and Pam McGill.
Good afternoon, Clearlake City Council. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to speak to you today. My name is Pam McGill. I'm the project manager and lead facilitator for the Blue Ribbon Committee for the Rehabilitation of Clearlake. We have a few slides that we want to present, but again, just wanted to thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. I think our presentation should last maybe about 10 minutes, and then we wanted to give you ample time to ask any questions of either myself or my colleague Sophie as well. So with that, Sophie, I think you were going to share the slides on your end.
Yeah, if I could have permission to share my screen.
Be okay now.
You should be able to. Yeah.
Great. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Sam, can you see?
I can, yes. Can you go ahead and move in? Okay, so just real quickly, we wanted to introduce ourselves. We also want to talk a little bit about the committee's background and purpose, as well as the membership, the folks that are actually seated on the committee. And then talk a little bit about sort of the organizational structure of the group and coordination with some of our partners, in particular, folks from UC Davis, who have been providing a lot of really essential research to the, for all of the activities the committee's been engaged in over the last couple of years. And then we want to switch gears a little bit and talk about what we've actually accomplished over the last year, including some specific recommendations and the funding request that we recently submitted on behalf of the Blue Ribbon Committee to the California Natural Resources Agency, the Governor Newsom's office, and the California State Legislature. And then finally, it should come as no surprise that our work, like so many others, has been modified, to say the least, by COVID-19. We want to talk a little bit about how that's impacted some of the work that we're doing. Sophie, I want to give you the opportunity to introduce yourself, and then I think you're going to take over at least the first several slides, and then we'll come back to recommendations. For members of the council, the vice mayor and mayor, please do jump in with questions at any point. Otherwise, we'll just keep going. We know you have a full agenda today, and we'll pause at the end for a more robust conversation. So with that, I'll kind of take a step back and hand it over to my colleague, Sophie. Sophie.
Yeah, thank you, Sam. So my name is Sophie Carrillo-Mandel. I'm an associate facilitator with Sacramento State with the Consensus and Collaboration Program there. And Sam and I have been working with the Blue Ribbon Committee for the rehabilitation of Clearlake pretty much since its inception in 2018. So just a brief overview of who is on the team, who is creating the agendas and planning the meetings. There's Eric Sklar, who is the chair of the Blue Ribbon Committee and president of the California Fish and Game Commission. He is appointed by the Secretary of Natural Resources for the state of California. Dave Seppos is the managing senior mediator at Sacramento State for our program. So he oversees Sam and myself. Sam, who you just met, is the senior facilitator and project manager. And I myself as the associate facilitator, and I'm also coordinating the socioeconomic subcommittee. So a little bit about the background and purpose of the Blue Ribbon Committee. It was established in 2017 by AB 707. AB 707 forms the committee and specifies membership, and it exhibited findings that water quality and environmental conditions in Clear Lake negatively impact the public health, environmental, and socioeconomic welfare of Lake County. And it requires that the committee develop detailed recommendations to clean up the lake for environmental gains that will also increase its regional prominence for recreation and economic development. So the purpose of the committee is to improve the environmental quality of the lake, but also with consideration for all the benefits that come to the region from the lake being in good environmental health. And that annual report to the legislature and governor is required on the 1st of January or before the 1st of January of each year. As I said a moment ago, the committee launched in late 2018, and the first report was delivered around this time last year on December 29th, 2020. And we just recently submitted the second annual report to the governor and legislature. Sam's going to talk a little bit more about what was in that report. So as I said, AB 707 specifies committee membership. So there's one representative of each of the 7 federally recognized tribes in Lake County on the committee. There's one member of the County Board of Supervisors, and Lake County also appointed 4 local experts in economic development, agriculture, environment, and public water supplier. There's also a UC Davis representative on the committee and a representative from the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board. So including the chair, I believe that's 15 members of the Blue Ribbon Committee. We work fairly closely with 2 UC Davis research teams. This is a very busy slide. We don't expect you to read it all, but just want to make sure that everyone understands what those relationships are. Around the same time that AB 707 was approved and created the committee, Assemblymember Aguiar Curry also went to work and found funding for 2 UC Davis research teams. One is the Tahoe Environmental Research Center. They're doing environmental science research on the lake itself. And the other is the Center for Regional Change at UC Davis, and they're doing socioeconomic research in the Lake County area. And so the blue boxes are all having to do with the Blue Ribbon Committee. The Resources Agency is the parent agency for the Blue Ribbon Committee. And at this time, we have three subcommittees: a technical science subcommittee, a socioeconomic subcommittee, and a cultural and traditional ecological knowledge subcommittee. The two UC Davis research teams are members of the appropriate subcommittees, and their research, of course, informs these subcommittees, which then inform the Blue Ribbon Committee, and the feedback from the other members on the subcommittees informs the UC Davis research.
So if I might, Sophie, just before you go on there, I know that we've done a number of these presentations for various groups throughout Lake County, and it seems like for some of those community groups, there's been some confusion about the relationship between UC Davis and the Blue Ribbon Committee itself. I just want to make sure everybody understands the Blue Ribbon Committee is established by legislation and is a program of the Resources Agency itself. So that UC Davis research is parallel to, but separate from the Blue Ribbon Committee. Our real goal here is that there's a clear flow of information between the work the committee is doing and those UC Davis research teams, but they are separate and have their own contractual requirements and products that are required of both of them. Thanks, Sophie. That's all.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Sam. And I'll get into the subcommittees a little bit more, but it's been very, it's been great to see these subcommittees bring together different groups that are doing important work on the lake and in the socioeconomic realm in the county. So I'll talk now about the sort of the annual plan of activities for the committee. It's really a cyclical process. So the committee meets quarterly, 4 times a year. At the March meeting, because they have just submitted the report, our next meeting will be in March, and they'll receive updates on reports, on the report submittal, and the status of funding for the recommendations that they've just submitted to the state. After that, in the June meeting, they'll receive any critical status updates and project check-ins, and introduce new recommendations for the coming year's annual report. At the September meeting, they'll review the recommendations that they had proposed from the June meeting and refine the annual support further. And at the December meeting, they'll do a final review and approval of the annual report. So, submitting a report in January that they had created over the previous year, and then getting funding, implementing the recommendations and working on those projects, and receiving updates, and then coming up with new projects around the June timeframe that will be in the next year's report. So a cyclical process. And then the subcommittees are meeting. The technical science subcommittee is meeting about once a month at this point. The socioeconomic subcommittee and cultural TEK subcommittee are meeting less frequently. The cultural TEK actually hasn't begun yet. I think it will begin in the next few months. But so in March and June, the subcommittees are making those recommendations that will come to the committee in June. They have to be specific to specific to the AB 707 charge to alleviate the environmental issues in the lake. And recommendations also might come from the previous year's deferred recommendation. So if there was discussion about a recommendation the previous year, but the committee hadn't quite come to resolution on if they wanted it to be in that previous year's report, then it might be further refined by the committee or by the subcommittees to be included in the next year's report. Then between June and September, after those recommendations are introduced, the subcommittees can review recommendations developed by the other subcommittees, and they can review these technical recommendations at a greater level of detail than the committee can in their quarterly meetings. And they'll continue to develop new recommendations that were introduced at the June meeting. And then between September and December, it's just reviewing recommendation revisions from the committee, because the committee will look at those recommendations and provide feedback in the September meeting to be finalized at the December meeting. And then also throughout the year, as needed, the subcommittee can be a venue for academics, local business leaders, and stakeholders with specific expertise to hold in-depth discussions on issues affecting Clearlake, coordinate with existing research efforts throughout the basin, and answer specific questions at the direction of the committee, and develop action-oriented recommendations for consideration by the full committee. As I was saying a moment ago, these first two blocks at the bottom have really been a great benefit of the subcommittee's meeting. The technical subcommittee has brought together many different groups such as the UC Davis researchers, Department of Water Resources, the Lake County Water Resources Department, as well as USGS. We've talked to I forget what their name is, but the national labs in Australia about research that they're looking into. There are contacts through UC Davis with NASA. It's really been a great coming together of different minds, as well as the tribes and the cyanobacteria task force, all coming together to discuss issues at Clearlake. And it's been my impression that there hasn't been a group like this of various groups working on the lake meeting, to work together before this committee and technical subcommittee convened. And the socioeconomic subcommittee is a little bit younger than that, but it's also convened a really excellent group of people concerned and working in the county. So go ahead, Sam, I'll hand it over to you.
Oh, and I do apologize. I think we had moved this slide further down in the presentation, but I can, what I can do is just run through some of the recommendations that the group has put together this year. With the caveat that, as I mentioned, many things have been changed by the way COVID has impacted the group's work. The initial recommendations that have been developed focus on information gathering and research to determine where and why water quality issues are occurring in the lake. In parallel, as I mentioned, the UC Davis group is focusing on specific in-lake processes, and they're primarily concerned with things like nutrient transport within the lake, as well as sort of just the cyclical cycles in the lake that lead to issues, primarily cyanobacteria blooms, as well as some of the other water quality issues like methylation of mercury. For this year, the committee requested $6.5 million in the governor's 2021 budget for 5 specific recommendations. These focus on, the 5 include a distributed hydrologic model of the upper watershed. So everything that's coming into the lake from Middle Creek, Dobie Creek, and the other major tributaries. A comprehensive monitoring plan for the upper watershed, again, to sort of pinpoint where some of the issues are that have arisen over the years. A bathymetric survey of the lake bottom itself to really understand where some of the nutrient and other constituent of concern buildups have happened over the years. Then the committee has also requested a review and implementation of the efficacy of existing programs and regulations. You're all aware that there are a variety of regulatory programs such as the existing total maximum daily load through the Central Valley Water Quality Control Board for nutrients. So we want to see if some of the requirements that have been put in place by those are actually achieving the goals that they were designed to do. And then finally, the committee has asked to conduct an assessment of public attitudes and behaviors impacting water quality. Future recommendations are intended to utilize all of this information and create specific projects or management activities to improve some of the environmental conditions in the lake. And as I mentioned, the group is very much focused right now on some of the algal blooms that have occurred over the years and have led to, as you're all very well aware, real environmental issues and public health challenges, such as harm to pets from drinking the water, as well as increased cost of treatment for public water supplies and other potential public health concerns from human consumption of the water itself. There's also, and this is really where we kind of link in to the socioeconomic side of things, as Sophie, I think, put it very well. As goes the health of the lake, so goes the health of the communities around it. And we're aware that there are some recreational impacts to, in particular, those algal blooms. So the committee's working hard through these recommendations to determine exactly why some of those issues are occurring, and then in the future, design specific projects to address them. Next slide. So I won't spend a lot of time on this, but it should come as no surprise. The committee's 20, and I do apologize, that should say the committee's 2020 recommendations were not funded through last year's budget. We heard word early on that the governor, before the May revise was submitted at the state level, the governor's budget was focused primarily on either wildfire prevention and response or COVID relief. Obviously we do feel that's appropriate, but what that meant is that the recommendations we had submitted last year were really kind of carried forward this year, and we've been working, and the committee's been working very hard to find any and all available funding sources to make sure that the work progresses, since there's a great deal of enthusiasm on the part of the committee members, and we want to make sure that we don't lose any of the good progress that's been made. We continue to explore additional options, including grants and potential federal funding, as well as some local funding. Some of the federally recognized tribes have made the suggestion that they have some money that could be available to move some of these recommendations along. So we really love that local support, and I think it just strengthens the case for the state funding as much as possible moving forward. Absent any additional funding, the committee continues to meet to develop implementation plans for all recommendations as soon as it becomes available. I can say, and we continue to meet with the Resources Agency regularly. Early on in the process, the Natural Resources Agency and the work of your Assembly Member Aguilar Curry allocated $5 million of Prop 68 funding specifically for committee recommendations. And some of the rules for how that money can be spent have changed a little bit over the years, and we have now received word that the committee can utilize that pot of money for some of its existing recommendations. So, Sophie, if you can go back to the last slide real quickly, what we discussed at the last meeting was funding the two largest recommendations on the list here, using some of that Prop 68 money, including the distributed hydrologic model of the upper watershed and developing a really comprehensive monitoring plan for all the tributaries coming into the lake. Those two recommendations combined are really going to be kind of the backbone of the committee's work, and again, show us where some targeted actions could help improve some of the in-lake conditions moving forward. So we're really excited to have that. That said, we don't anticipate using that entire $5 million for the committee's recommendations. We have heard loud and clear from members of the committee, stakeholders from the community itself, as well as the Assembly Member's Office, that folks actually want to see projects being built on the ground as well that show really clear improvement. So the committee has been discussing two additional kind of capital improvement projects to improve recreational facilities and fish habitat on Kelsey Creek, and then in Upper Lake on Clover Creek. Those would both benefit the Clearlake hitch, which you're probably aware is a potential candidate for special status species listing. So that was the bulk of what I had to say. Sophie, I think you had a couple more slides. Oh, down to questions. All right. So again, we just wanted to provide you kind of a snapshot of what the committee's doing right now. You can see our contact information up on the page here, and we can certainly share all of these slides with you in the future. There's also a fairly robust website on the Resources Agency website specific to Blue Ribbon Committee activities, and I encourage and invite everybody to look at some of the materials up there. It gives a really good overview of everything the committee has done since 2018. But at this point, we just wanted to pause and open the floor to any questions that you all might have.
Councilman Croydon has a question.
Yes, the bathymetric, do you have any feel at this point where or what the greatest impact as far as the cyanobacteria bacteria formation is coming from? Is it from the bottom of the lake, or is it from the inlets, Meadow Creek, or Kelsey Creek, or any of the other creeks? What do you think has the greatest impact?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. I don't want to speak too far out of turn because I'm not a scientist by trade, but having participated in enough of these discussions, the two sort of primary culprits that are at least theoretically providing most of the nutrients that cause the cyanobacteria blooms are existing sediment within the lake, and then the Middle Creek area as well. Until some of this work is done, to monitoring in particular, to really to pinpoint exactly where that's happening, we can't say for sure. But that's sort of the operating assumption that many people are using. And as you're all probably aware, there's been a long-standing project to restore the outlet to Middle Creek, create some sort of filtering wetlands, and restore the area that's been that was reclaimed and levied off many, many years ago. That project continues in parallel to this process. The committee is very supportive of it. And I believe that they are still in they're doing property acquisition right now before the design of that process can be completed and the project can actually start to be constructed, since it will involve breaching of levees and that sort of thing. So they still have a ways to go. That's that's a U.S. Army Corps of Engineers project in partnership with many members of the local community. And as you're all probably painfully aware, the Corps takes a while to accomplish things, but they do wonderful work. And I know the local project team is excited to get that moving along.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Dave? Blackie? Questions? No?
Yeah,
Councilman Overton, there's some questions.
yeah, you're, throughout your thing, you're saying recommendations to, who are these recommendations going to?
So the recommendations are formed by all of the members that Sophie had up on the screen a while ago. And those are going, per the requirements of AB 707, those recommendations are sent to the California Natural Resources Agency, to the governor, and ultimately to the legislature. The committee does have the ability, once funding is allocated, to write grants and actually begin contracting to do all of this work. If we look back, Sophie, if you can go back to the recommendation slide. Depending on which recommendation we're talking about, there are different folks who are best suited to actually conduct that work. If we take that the upper watershed model, we've been working very closely with the U.S. Geological Survey. They are kind of the best in the business at this sort of work, and the intention was that they would carry out a great deal of that. For the monitoring plan, the other one that's very likely to be funded this year through that existing Prop 68 money that we have, we anticipate a wide range of folks participating in that. Lake County has already done robust monitoring and would continue to build out some of its capabilities, as well as stations owned and operated by both UC Davis and the USGS. So, the recommendations just go to the state, but then once that funding is allocated, the committee works to actually implement all of the recommendations. Hopefully that answered your question.
Vice Mayor Murdock, any questions?
No, actually, Mr. Mayor, he answered my questions with his response to Councilmember Kramer, who also has a follow-up question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I know you're looking at the Middle Creek, the bathymetric study at the bottom. It seems to be all geared to preventing cyanobacteria from happening. Do you have anything that you're doing now for when there are blooms in our mats that they can be minimized, broken up, eliminated after they've already formed?
So the committee, as I mentioned, is focused very much on information gathering right now, but the committee has received presentations from a few different groups that actually do some of those sorts of treatments. There's a group that owns a product called Phoslock that has been used successfully on various hills to treat some of the water, and the committee is looking into options like that. Part of the problem is, as you know, particularly in the lower and Oaks Arms, the problem when there are large algal blooms, it's across a fairly wide area, and those sorts of treatments may not be applicable to kind of landscape level challenges.
That's where I was kind of thinking of mechanical. Is anything like that been looked at?
Not currently from the committee. I believe, and I really hope I'm not speaking out of turn here, but I believe that Big Valley Rancheria does some mechanical treatments of the area surrounding its marina and harbor area. So I know some of that work is happening on a smaller scale, but not at the level of, kind of the charge that AB 707 sets with us. And the hope is that once we have a good understanding of what's actually causing the issues, that then we can design some of those projects on a much larger scale. This has always been intended to be a long-term, multi-year process, and we're very encouraged by the local participation and the commitment to keep this thing going in the long run.
That's it from the council. I have one comment or question. So the reports get prepared, and then there's implementation recommendations in that report, and there's also money for the actual implementation. Do we implement the recommendations? Is that correct? So there's money to do actually the work.
So this is the first year that we will have some funding available through that Prop 68 pot of money. The intention and the hope is that now that the report has been submitted to the state, that we can get an actual appropriation to fund the rest of it. As it stands right now, that Prop 68 money, will fund slightly less than half of that 6.5 million figure that you see up on your screen. So the purpose of the report is sort of twofold. It's both laying out the recommendations, but it's also really a funding request to the state to move all of these things forward. And then the committee itself is tasked with, contracting with the right entities to carry out the work.
Thank you very much. If there's any other questions, thank you very much for the presentation. Absolutely.
Thank you all. And we'd certainly be happy to come back at any time to provide you updates. I know Mr. Spurlock and others have participated in many of these meetings in the past, and we really want to just be a resource for all of you as questions arise. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Mr. Mayor, looks like we have a member of the public that would like to ask a question.
Okay. There's a member of the public that wants to ask you a question, sir.
Great, thank you.
Okay, hi. My name's Patty Duke. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, well, the city council knows me. I'm at 4950 Spruce Street in Clearlake, and I've asked this question before. Seeing the ever increasing vineyards in the hills and land around our lake, don't wells have to access a water table, and doesn't that water table breathe with the lake? And where are the nitrates going and the chemicals for bugs or whatever else is being sprayed that goes into the groundwater, into the water table and into our lake? Does that not feed the algae?
I really appreciate the question, and I'd love to bring back some of the folks from UC Davis that are the actual hydrologists. There's specific ag representation on the committee who's been participating and speaking to that, as well as our science partners at the state and federal agencies that I've mentioned. We are focused very much on surface water in this group, but there are other efforts and entities underway that are focused on, you mentioned well water in particular, and I know that I don't want to go too far into groundwater, but I know that there are groundwater issues on the, I believe, northwestern side of the lake in the Big Valley Basin, and all of that's being looked into. Additionally, there are other state efforts, as I mentioned, primarily through the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board, that are looking specifically at the discharge of potential constituents of concern from agricultural lands. And I think they're primarily of the total maximum daily load program through the Central Valley Regional Water Quality Control Board. The hope here is that the committee itself can serve as sort of a central hub and clearinghouse for a lot of that information, so that members of the community and all of your local representatives can be kept up to speed on what's happening.
And so I have a fish aquarium, and it grows the black green algae and it blooms because that's what comes out of the faucet. And a couple years ago, blackbeard algae started growing in my tank, which the water company came and verified. Okay, so I don't know where that came from because it's only been blue-green. So there's two different kinds that grow in my tank. The concern is there, the algae's increasing. If it smothers out the fish, what are we going to have for our tournaments?
Certainly, and I know fish kills are a big concern by members on the committee, and that's why we're really trying. Well, I should say the committee is really trying to do some work to understand exactly why some of these issues are occurring, and then develop a specific action plan to deal with them. It will take some time, but in our discussions with members of the committee, the various communities up there, this is really kind of the first time that a group like this has been put together, and we're encouraged that they're going to be able to find solutions to some of the issues that you just mentioned.
Yeah, well, people that know what's in the water don't drink it.
Thank you very
And-
much.
and-
If you have additional questions, you can go directly to the Blue Ribbon Committee.
And also, Sophie and Eric are coming in clear, but the city council is breaking up.
Okay, we'll deal with that. Thank you very much. Okay, any other public comment on this item? If not,
Don't see any.
thanks again for your presentation. And at some point in time, I would like to see the reports itself too. Thank you.
Absolutely, we can circulate that to you, get that over to you right away. Thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you. Have a
All
good
right,
evening.
we'll have now a presentation of an update on Hope Center. I believe Allison Vanilla will be addressing this.
Yes, she's here, so hopefully she'll be connected with us.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, everyone. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Well,
Awesome. Oh, it says you can't see me. Let me fix that. So I just wanted to take a moment to briefly connect with you, and I'd like to from time to time, if that's all right, to just give you an update on Hope Center. I haven't prepared a formal presentation, but really was just hoping to engage in some dialogue. I've forwarded a prepared report to you. It's our 1 month report for Hope Center. Hope Center has been open to participants for a little bit over a month now. We are currently full and have a waiting list. I've sent it to Alan, and if you're willing to share it with council members, that would be wonderful. And I can give you a brief synopsis of that report if you're open to that.
sure, please proceed.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thanks to Vice Mayor Russ Purdock's support, the major renovations of Hope Center were nearly completed back in November. There was a complete overhaul for the property facility at 3400 Emerson Street. We're still awaiting some finishing touches on our kitchen, as well as some partitions in our major office hub area and little onesie twosie things we're working with our general contractor on. But for the most part, our facility is up and running. Everything works. Showers work, toilets flush, faucets run. Things are running smoothly, structurally wise, which is really, really nice. Our participant update. We currently have 20 participants at Hope Center. Our facility offers space for up to 21 participants, in that we have a cool down facility located directly outside of our facility, but that's only if we have a room or a bed available where we can admit them the following day or whenever they are prepared to enter our facility. So we won't be operating that room unless we have a room currently available to see them. The average age of our participants is 47 years old, with the eldest being 72 and the youngest being 19. 8 of our 20 participants consider Clearlake their home. 2 people Kelseyville, 2 people Lakeport, one person in Lower Lake, one person in Spring Valley, and one person in Middletown. 2 people consider themselves Mendocino County their home, and 1 person moved here recently from Washington. And 2 do not consider themselves to have a home city. 16 of the 21 participants at Hope Center have a mental health diagnosis ranging from anxiety to schizophrenia. 2 of them are veterans. 3 in total of the participants. Right now, we're currently at max capacity, but over the course of the last month that we've been open, 3 have been exited. Let's see. The average number of years so far with our participants that have been in Hope Center is 18 years, with the longest being 43 years and the shortest being only 3 months. The services so far that our participants have received in the short time that they've been with us really widely range. They've ranged with connection to services, treatment to medication. We had one participant who received medication for their behavioral health disorder within 48 hours that they only received once in their life that really supported their disorder. We had haircuts for over 10 of our participants with hair colors and styling. We've had 4 of our participants enroll in college. We've had, let me see here. We've had, through our participants, applying for housing daily. We have one who we think will be exiting into a housing facility next week. And every participant, when they enter our facility, is given a clean pair of clothes. They are invited to wash all of their new clothes, their current clothes. They're being provided breakfast every morning and dinner. They're on their own for lunch. They've been connected with health and wellness services, including but not limited to optometry, dentist, and chiropractic services, as well as been connected with their primary care provider. We've had intensive outpatient case management come, as well as Lake County Behavioral Health Services come and provide services. And that's just a general overview of what's been going on over not too far from your facility in the last month. And I just wanted to pause for a moment and express my my gratitude to you all. Hope Center's doors wouldn't be open today if it wasn't for your commitment to this space and this facility. We have a lot of work ahead of us, and we're in it for the long haul, and we appreciate your support when you backed us some time ago with getting our doors open. So thank you. Thank you for allowing me to come here to you today and give you a report. And I hope I'm invited to come back to continue to give you these little reports.
I think that would be awesome every couple of months. It's good to hear that the good work that you're doing. Do the council have any questions? One question, is the kitchen dead?
Would you like me to address that?
Not completely, no. Sure.
We still have a back order for our appliances because of COVID. They seem to be difficult to come across. But we contacted the supplier today, and we are still told to be patient. So we are actively working on getting the kitchen up and running.
I toured the facility, and Vice Mayor Purdock and Pastor Shannon gave me the tour. And I'm so happy the way it's running. You already have 3 people being discharged to your facility. That's just great news. Thank you, Allison. All right.
Thank you.
Go to, thanks a lot. Go now to item presentation number 3. Presentation of a proclamation declaring January 2021 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Members of the Lake Family Resource Center will be presented via Zoom. Is there anybody from Lake County Resource Center online on Zoom?
Mr. Mayor, Kara Roberts will be representing Lake Family Resource Center.
All right. As the mayor, we designate and the council and the city designates the month of January 2021 as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in Lake County. Whereas human trafficking is a serious crime that affects people, all race, age, and gender, and whereas human trafficking is a borderless crime against individuals that violate the most basic human right and deprives victims of human dignity and denies freedom to 32 million around the world. And whereas human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal industry globally, and whereas California ranks third among the states in the number of potential reports of human trafficking, and whereas the serious form of human trafficking involves the exploitation of children and youth for commercial sex acts, it's imperative that our young people and their families learn how to recognize risk and resist predators who use coercion and threats to manipulate children and young adults into sex and labor trafficking. And whereas Lake Family Resource Center is instrumental in leading the way in the county of Lake addressing human trafficking by providing 24 hours hotline services and continuing support, advocacy, and accompaniment to survivors. And whereas preventing human trafficking in Lake County includes active public and private efforts to help recognize and acknowledge existence. And it's time for all of us to start conversations, take appropriate action, and support one another to create a safer environment for all residents. And whereas many organizations like the District Attorney's Office, Sheriff's Office, Lake Police Department, Clearlake Police Department, and Lake Family Resource Center are committed to ending human trafficking in Lake County and provide essential crisis intervention and prevention services to all members of our community. Now, therefore, it is proclaimed that the month of January 2021 is designated as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in the city of Clearlake, and our community is urged to support the efforts of the agencies assisting victims of human trafficking and urges all local governments, school businesses, and community members be aware and report any suspicious activity to our local police departments and help shine the light on trafficking. Signed by the Mayor Herb Slotin on January 7th, 2021. Thank you very much.
Thank you, City Council members. My name is Kara Roberts, and I'm the Program Coordinator for our Human Trafficking Program at Lake Family Resource Center. I just wanted to point out that, as it said there in the proclamation, this is the fastest growing criminal enterprise, and it is happening here in Lake County. As Lake Family Resource Center, you may know that we've been offering victim services in this county for over 20 years. And this is our newest victim service program, and we're very excited to get the ball rolling. I just want to thank the city of Clearlake for helping us shine a light on human trafficking.
Thank you. Do you have any other statistics that you could share with us just to see how prevalent this really is in Lake County?
It's earning about 150 million worldwide, 150 billion worldwide, 32 million in the US. The average age for recruitment is going to be 12 to 14 years old. That one's kind of shocking. And we are, like it said, the fastest growing. So we're about to surpass the cartel criminal enterprise and be number one.
Council, any questions for? Go ahead, Councilman Overton.
So on the proclamation, it says that the California is a high state for human trafficking. Is that mainly because we're on the border of Mexico and the waters, and is that affecting has that affected our area here? I mean, I've heard of a few of them here in Lake County, so I'm just curious. What's the consequences for us here?
So yes, California is one of the top three, and part of it is the border. We're looking down in Southern California, also the Bay Area. And then if you think about like I-5, we have I-5 on one side of us and then the Bay Area on the other side, and it's kind of a pass through Lake County. So back in 2018, we started noticing a lot more cases. You guys probably saw a few articles in the papers over the last couple of years, but we had about 21 people come forward for services just in 2018, 19, and 20. And previously, there was only about one person a year coming forward. So it is fast growing. We are on top of it, and we're offering services now, specialized.
Great, thank you.
Any other council have any questions of Vice Mayor Hedges?
I was just going to thank you for your work. Human trafficking is a very serious issue. I've known young ladies who were pulled into the human trafficking world, and it's just awful to witness and to hear their testimony.
Yes. Well, we're excited to offer the services.
Thank you very much for doing this tremendous service for Lake County. Really
Thank you.
All right, we'll go to presentation number 4. And this is a presentation to our current mayor, Mr. Russ Kramer. As a lot of people know, Russ and I have worked on numerous projects together, and I'm so delighted to work with him in the past, and we'll continue to work in with all kinds of different projects, not only for the city, but some of our other duties. Congratulations. Thank you for all your
Thank
work.
you, Mr. Mayor.
Speech now, right?
It's been a very short one. It's been my honor and my privilege to serve the last 2 terms as your mayor. I thank you for entrusting that to me. I think I have been very proud of what we've accomplished over the last 2 terms and beyond. The Austin Park is renovation. The road projects are ongoing and are starting to really make a difference now. And the learning curve that we've gone over, Dale, that you certainly helped with, the double chip seal projects, those are great. The airport and our economic development, and last but certainly not least, well, I've got a couple things, but the housing projects that we're starting to take on that are going to help to increase the amount of market rate housing in the city of Clearlake, along with the low income housing that we're already have been doing more than our part of. And then last and most recently, the purchase of the property behind Safeway. I think really look forward to great things with both on the Redwood end with a new hotel that's going to come there. That's going to help our tourist industry, probably fishing first, fishing tournaments, and then and beyond, hopefully boating and sailing and all the other things that go with it on the lake. And then also the moving of our corporation yard, I think, is going to be making it a lot more efficient for us. And certainly the ball fields, I really look forward to a great recreation area where we can have regional tournaments as well. So I'm looking forward to what we're going. I'm sitting down here now. It's a little different viewpoint. I see why you're so upset all the time, Mr. Doc. But I really look forward to the next 2 years and beyond for myself on the council, and I think we're all going to do great things. So thank you very much again.
Okay, next item, number 5 of the presentation is a review of the city council norms and procedures. I believe our city clerk will make this presentation.
Yes, Mr. Mayor and honorable council members, give me 1 second so I can share my screen. This is my first time doing this. So appreciate the patience. Ta-da. All right. Okay, so today we're going to go over the council norms and procedures as we do annually in January. The city was incorporated in 1980 as a general law city, which means that we follow the state government codes and regulations instead of creating our own charter of laws. As such, the government code outlines the roles and responsibilities of the city council and dictates how the city should run. In addition, the city council adopted the current norms and procedures manual in 2015, which sets the expectations and responsibilities surrounding council meetings and city business. The council is responsible for the appointment of the city manager and the city attorney, the establishment of boards and appointment of those members. It is also responsible for legislative decisions and policy making. The city manager is responsible for the preparation of a recommended budget. He or she recruits, hires, and supervises personnel, our contractors, and all our consultants. The city manager implements the council's policies, programs, and public services. The city manager also provides professional advice to the council on policy matters, intergovernmental affairs, economic development, and environmental issues, and is responsible for the day-to-day management of city business and personnel. Correspondence by any city council member as represented as coming from the council should be on city letterhead and shall be reviewed by the city council prior to release. That's usually put on a council agenda. Council members should make a good faith effort to attend all regional board meetings that require a quorum. Attendance should not be less than 75% of all scheduled meetings. Additionally, council members are responsible for ethics training through the Fair Political Practices Commission, available for free online and every 2 years that is required. It is also required for sexual harassment prevention training for all elected and city officials and employees. So that online training is provided through our Joint Power Authority. City council majority gives direction to the city manager and city attorney. We're then responsible for that direction to give to staff to carry out the policies of the council. Council members work through the city manager or the city attorney on issues, concerns, and questions. This is to allow the senior professional staff with the proper education, training, experience, and knowledge of issues, laws, and the council's policies to coordinate a full and complete response and reduce error or misunderstanding by staff members not necessarily knowledgeable on all the issues. Individual requests for information should be made to the city manager or the city clerk. Requests taking more than 1 hour of staff time must be approved at a council meeting by a majority vote of the full council. Irrespective of the time, council member information requests should be limited to 3 to 5 requests per week. Council meetings and agenda postings are, as you know, governed by the Brown Act. All meetings under the current COVID-19 emergencies are closed at this time to the public physical presence in the chamber, pursuant to the governor's executive orders. Participation, as you know, is allowed through Zoom, our town hall portal, and via email to myself. All meetings are broadcasted on the city's YouTube channel right now, the TV8's YouTube channel, and through PEG TV Channel 8. Our first meeting in January, the council approves the calendar of the meeting schedules. According to the norms and procedures, regular meetings shall be terminated at 10 p.m. unless the mayor, by majority vote of the council, extends it past 10 p.m. The council must meet once a month, but we can cancel up to 4 meetings per year. And traditionally, the council has canceled the second meetings of November and December due to the holiday season. Special meetings can be called by the mayor or a majority of the council with 24 hours notice to the council and to the public. Those special meetings can include study sessions, joint meetings with other boards, things like that. Closed sessions are meetings of the council to discuss city business in consultation with the city attorney as authorized under the Brown Act. We can also call emergency meetings. Those are to deal with urgent and emergency public health and safety issues. Those can be called immediately with notification to the press and notification to all council members. Three members of the council constitute a quorum. If fewer than 3 members appear at a meeting, that meeting needs to be adjourned to a stated date and hour. Any briefings involving a majority of the council must be open to the public and properly noticed. An informational or advisory memo doesn't violate the Brown Act. For example, when a staff member sends an email to the entire council, or when an email from a staff member is asking for availability for a future meeting, those, while they are public record, are not violations of the Brown Act. However, we do ask that you be mindful and don't hit reply all to your emails if they include other members of the council. There are a few exceptions to meeting outside of the council meeting. Council members can attend conferences, community meetings, meetings of other legislative bodies such as the Board of Supervisors. You can meet on social and ceremonial events once they start again. And you just have to avoid talking about city business while at the event unless it's agendized and properly posted. So a serial meeting occurs when a majority of the council members have communicated about something outside of an agendized meeting and have developed a collective opinion, and it would be an issue that would possibly come before the council's jurisdiction. They can develop when council members have either directly or indirectly heard each other's opinion on an issue enough to develop an agreement on the topic. Just to include that this does include email communications, and now effective in September 2020, it does include social media posting. AB 992 took effect in September of 2020. As I said, it clarifies that it ordinarily does not violate the Brown Act to participate in social media. It specifically allows the use of digital icons such as emoji in discussions in social media. However, it does create a clear rule that members of a legislative body may not respond directly to any communication posted on the internet by other members of the same legislative body, meaning the council, regarding a matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative body. So for example, you can't reply to another council member's post on Facebook about something within the city's jurisdiction or something that is subject matter of the city. Even a thumbs up emoji counts as a communication. So you as a member of a legislative body can participate in open and public social media platforms. You can participate on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, as long as you don't respond directly to someone else on the council. So that's it. A daisy chain meeting, that occurs when a council member 1 calls council member 2 to talk about it, then council member 2 calls 3, et cetera, and pretty soon you're all communicating about the same issue, even if you're not communicating directly. There's a line between it, so we want to avoid that. A hub and spoke meeting is when, an example would be the city manager would call council member Kramer to discuss a topic. Then, the city manager would then call council member Overton to discuss the same topic, telling council member Overton what Kramer has said. While he will not do that, I'm using that as an explanation as to that's a Brown Act violation, then using the hub and spoke properly. So the mayor and vice mayor selection process, as you know, the mayor and vice mayor are chosen annually at a December meeting by motion and majority vote. The mayor and vice mayor serve January 1st through December 31st. The agenda contents are organized by the mayor, the city manager, and the city clerk. We do have an agenda request policy for members of the public, which was adopted in in 2008. That's a simple form that's filled out by the public and submitted to myself. If it is an item that needs further discussion, we do have the provision for an agenda committee, which would review the request, depending on what it is. For future city council agenda items and city council reports, that the future city council agenda items is the time when city council members request and can receive consensus of other members of the council to put an item on a future agenda. The city council report at the end of council meetings shall be limited to announcing mayor-appointed regional board activities on which the council members serve, city and city-sponsored activities, and the items which directly affect the city. Community groups may announce their activities during public comment at the beginning of the council meetings. Council members should refrain from making personal comments, stating personal activities or items that do not impact their role as council member. Each council member has equal vote and direction authority. The role of mayor, and in the mayor's absence, the vice mayor, is to maintain order and decorum during the meeting. The duty and responsibility of the mayor and vice mayor is to ensure that the rules of operation and decorum are observed. The mayor has the responsibility of controlling and expediting that discussion. The council member has been recognized to speak on a question and has a right to the undivided attention of the council. It's up to the mayor to control communication between council members and among the council staff and public. It is also the duty of the mayor to keep the subject clearly before the members, to rule out irrelevant discussion, and to restate the question when necessary. The mayor or vice mayor shall intervene when a council member, staff, or other meeting participant is being verbally or otherwise attacked by a member of the public, with the city manager being city or sergeant at arms. All right, Rosenberg's Rules of Order. Rosenberg's Rules of Order state that the rules should establish order, they should be clear, user-friendly, and enforce the will of the majority while protecting the rights of the minority. It is the council's duty and responsibility to tell the public what they're doing, to keep the public informed while they're doing it, and when the council makes a decision, to tell the public what it was. However, the norms and procedures does detail in additional depth as to the specific protocol to the meetings, but for here, for the sake of time and brevity, I'll give a general overview of the agenda item discussions. First, the mayor announces the agenda item number, states the agenda item subject and format for considering the item, whether it's on business, public hearing, etc. The mayor then asks for the staff report to be given, and if there are any technical questions of staff. After that, the public can comment, and the mayor closes the public discussion and then invites council deliberation and discussion. It is the practice of the city council for the mayor to provide council members an opportunity to ask questions of staff, to comment on and discuss any agendized item in order to help form a consensus before a motion is offered. After discussion, the mayor or a council member may make a motion. Before the motion is considered or discussed, it must be seconded. And once the motion has been properly made and seconded, the mayor opens the matter to full discussion, deliver any full additional deliberation, and then the mayor will take the floor after all of the other council members have been given the opportunity to speak. The three basic motions are one that puts forward a decision for the council's consideration. 99% of the time, these are our basic motions. However, if there is, for example, an error or a misstatement in the basic motion, there can be a motion to amend to correct the first motion. That has to be made at the request of the motion maker, and the council member who seconded has to consent to that. It's something very simple. A substitute motion is a different action than the motion on the floor. So For example, if there's a disagreement among the council as to how an issue should be handled, 2 council members make one motion, 2 council members make a substitute motion for a completely different action. That the first motion would be the one, the original motion is voted on first, and then the substitute motion is voted on. And these are all in your norms and procedures, because I know it can be a blur. There are certain motions that are not debatable, and they're listed here. Motion to adjourn, not debatable. Motion to take a break, not debatable. Or to fix the time to adjourn, stating that we are definitely stopping at 7:15. That's not, you just vote. A motion to table, the motion to limit debate is a motion that would be made in order to say, we're going to take 15 minutes on this item to talk about it, and that's it, and we're going to vote. So that motion to limit debate requires a 2/3 vote or a 4 out of 5, since you're a 5-member. In addition to this, there are certain circumstances in which a motion to reconsider can be made. They can also be made at a subsequent meeting or at the current meeting. A subsequent meeting by a council member or a member of the public is outlined in the norms and procedures. It gets into depth, and we don't really need to get into it here because it happens so very infrequently. But just know that after a vote is taken, a motion to reconsider is used to reopen the subject. So a majority vote, as I've stated before, is a 3 out of 5 vote, with all council members being present and voting in favor, 3 out of 5 in favor. Some ordinances, such as an urgency or an emergency ordinance, require a 4/5 vote. If there are not 4 out of 5 council members present, that vote is, it can be voted on. So if we have an urgency ordinance or something, some other type of ordinance that requires a 4/5 vote, we need all council members present in order to move forward, at least. Tie votes occur when there's a 2-2 vote, and tie votes if there's a council member absent or abstaining. And if it's a 2-2 vote, the motion fails. So there are there's orders of courtesy and decorum during the discussion. There can be a point of privilege, a point of order, or a council member may appeal the ruling of the mayor. If a discussion is gone off topic, the mayor can call back for the order of the day to return to the agenda item discussion. And I think finally, the maker of a motion on the floor can withdraw that motion at any time. And a motion, of course, at that time can be made by another council member or the mayor. So I know this is always an exciting presentation. I throw a lot of information at you at one time, but if you have questions, I can answer them, or I can meet with you later on and we can go over in further detail.
Before you, I just wanted to add, Ms. Swanson did a terrific job. I think there's a lot in there. I think a big point I just wanted to say was Ms. Swanson and myself are here to answer questions because you're not going to get this all now. There's a lot of nuance to it, and please utilize us as staff to help facilitate, professional discussion. We're happy to help you with that.
Councilwoman Overton had a question, but
They've been here 15 years.
All right.
We do have a member of the public with their hand raised.
Okay. Public comment?
Hi, my name's Patty Duke, 4950 Spruce Street, and welcome, new mayor. And is Chief White there?
No, he's not.
Okay. And is there time today for 3-minute discussions?
I would suggest.
Because
Unless
I couldn't hear.
We haven't got to that point in the agenda
Because-
yet.
It's time for.
Okay, because it's hard.
Just hang on. for a
It's just hard to hear because you guys are cutting out, but when the presentations come on, they are clear. And so that's why I asked, because it's hard to hear. Thank you.
Okay. All right, if we don't have any more questions for our city clerk, we'll move on to public comment. Public comment will be accepted via email and through the town hall portal prior to the start of the meeting. Each public comment emailed to the city clerk will be read aloud by the city clerk for up to 3 minutes or will be displayed on a screen. Public comments, emails, and town hall submissions which are received at the beginning of the meeting will not be included in the record. If any member of the public viewing the meeting on Zoom wishes to speak, please click the raise your hand button on your screen. Madam Clerk, have we received any comment? Public comment?
Mr. Mayor, I have not received any public comment via email or via the open town hall, but we do have a Zoom participant with their hand raised, and that is Patty Duke.
Okay, go ahead, Mrs. Duke.
I will
Okay.
start the 3-minute timer.
Is it, okay, so I'm bringing forward what I haven't heard from Dave Schwartz. And so my lawyer said to bring it forward to the council. And as a preface, on November 7th, my elderly dog passed away. On November 11th, my 49-year-old daughter passed away. And on the 16th, 2 code enforcement officers came to my door stating that I could not block the roadway with a vehicle or a chain across my private roadway because it is a city street and that I would be cited if I had a chain back up. And the chain is to keep the people that live next door and all of the traffic from turning around and degrading my asphalt. I left a note with a young man at the city hall on November 30th that I would like to speak to Dave Schwartz, city planner, on the upcoming Thursday when he was free. And as I had called after code enforcement officers left to speak with city planner and was told by Addie Brown that Dave Schwartz would be there on Thursday, when I asked her how it was that my private easement road was now considered a public city street, she stated that someone showed Dave Schwartz a map of the city and pointed to a small jog line off of Spruce Avenue that was not labeled public or private. A map of Lake County was then provided and street listed as public. Hence the sudden appearance of code enforcement officers at my door on November 16th. I showed them documents from 2 attorneys and the survey taken in 2009, and it was by Albion Surveys in St. Helena, California. I think they're reputable, and it is a private road. And there was also a letter from Julie Burrows, who was the assistant planner, who also verified that it is a private road, only providing access to lots on the north side of it. And I showed these to the code enforcement officers at the door on the 16th, and they said, no, that's not true. And that Julie Burrows didn't really have a right to say that. And it was just insane. I'm representing Phyllis Lee at 4960 and I'm at 4950 Spruce Street. And this has been going on for years as a resident has continued to claim it's his property. Actually, it's a city street and he can do what he wants on it because he grew up here. And so therefore he does. And he's told his kids to do the same thing. They call me crazy. They call me names. This is a harassment that's been going on 13 years now. Okay. And so I came on the Thursday and the young man at the counter said that Dave Schwartz was not available and no offer of further time or appointment or arrangements were made by this man at the counter at the city hall.
Mrs. Duke, your time is kind of up, and at this point.
Okay.
The city council cannot comment at this point. I would suggest.
Well, no, I understand.
I suggest you take it back up with the.
I understand, but I have heard nothing from Dave Schwartz. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, so I'm sure Mr. Schwartz isn't avoiding Ms. Duke on this, but I'll make sure that there's contact made and that we address this issue.
I assume you to hear what the city manager had to say, Mrs. Duke? Okay, we'll move on. We'll have to take a 5-minute break as requested by Councilman Fullerton. We'll move now on to the consent agenda. Any items need to be from the council that anybody wants to pull from the consent or any changes? If not,
Mr. Mayor, I move that we accept the.
hold on.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is there any other public wants to pull one of the consent items? Madam Clerk.
I don't see any hands raised on the Zoom, and I've not received any requests to do so.
Councilman Kramer, please proceed.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Clocky,
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer,
Aye.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdue,
Aye.
Mayor Slivin.
Aye. All right, we go to our first item of business. Item number 11, authorization to purchase a Graco Line Laser V250 DC reflective series self-lit gas electric airless line strike tipper model 25D343.
Is that turbocharged?
It better be. Please.
All right, I'm glad you got that one.
All right, Public Works Director, Mr. Goodman, please. Thank you, presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, council members. Before I get into this item, I just want to thank you as council members, the four of you. I've been here for a year now, and I've really enjoyed working with you all. I appreciate the support. Appreciate the support of Alan and Melissa and the other senior staff members. We have a great staff here, and this has really been a real highlight of my public career. So thank you, and welcome to our new council member. And I look forward to working with you as well. So now getting into this this agenda item, about right at the beginning of December, I got a couple of phone calls from people who live in the senior living area across from the senior center, and they were concerned about the lack of fog line on the west side of the road between their residence and Safeway. And so I went out and took a look, and in fact, there had been a fog line there at some point, but it was really faded, could hardly be seen. So they were concerned about their safety walking along the road there. I called over to the county to the county and asked person who is in charge of their traffic safety signing and road markings, if they had a piece of equipment that we could borrow to go out there and paint that line. Actually, one of the senior citizens who had called me asked if they could, if we would supply paint. She said that they would go out there and paint those lines by hand, which I thought was a horrible idea. I mean, I had all kinds of terrible pictures in my head when she suggested that. I said, no, we're not going to. If we want you to volunteer for something, it won't be in the right way. But anyway, the gentleman at the county said that he wanted to meet with me and said he'd come over whenever I could find time. And so we arranged the time. Well, he showed up with their striping machine. It was a Graco machine. And it took, in about 20 minutes, he unloaded the machine. He striped that line, restriped the line, and had the machine back on the trailer. And was done. And I was really impressed with how quickly they were able to do that work. I talked to the city manager a little bit about it, and the last time that area had been striped was back in 2018. And so I looked into the equipment to see how much it cost versus how much we had paid to have that striping done 2 years ago. And so that striping project was $287,000. And so I got some quotes I did some research, got some quotes from 4 suppliers for this piece of equipment. And then I did some math to see what, with that piece of equipment, it would cost us to do the same work. So this is a striking detail from the project 2 years ago. And there were some things on that project that I didn't include in my.
It's not in your packet.
No, you won't find it. I'm sorry to say. But I just wanted to compare apples and apples. So there was some thermoplastic that they did in this project, and I didn't want to include that. I just looked at the lines that they striped and what it would cost us to stripe those lines with this piece of equipment, with four people working on it, 2 trucks, and really looking at about 2 weeks of work for 4 people. to do all the striping that was done in that project. And what I found after doing those calculations, I looked at the cost of the paint, the cost of the glass beads that go on the paint, the cost of operating vehicles and labor. Those were the things I looked at. I didn't include the cost of the striping machine because I didn't know if I could break that out by cost per foot. Because I also was assuming we would use that striper for other striping during the course of a year. So I just basically said, normally we amortize a piece of equipment, let's say over 5 years. So $6,000. We'll take $6,000 and we'll add it to the cost of striping, and that'll give us an idea about what this project would cost us. And what I found was that we could do all of the striping that was done in that job for about $20,000. So significant savings. So that's what I'm presenting. I presented to you today is the information you need to make a decision about whether you'd like us to have that piece of equipment in our inventory and have the ability to respond quickly, and even not quickly, even just every year go out and restripe all of our lines. Something that we can do for $20,000 a year instead of $287,000 every couple of years. So I'll end there and invite any questions you might have.
Council, any questions?
Just a comment. Thank you, sir. Thank you for your report. I think it's very detailed and understandable for folks who don't do this business. And obviously, I think with our Measure V money, we need to be very thrifty with the monies that are coming in from our tax, the tax dollars coming in. And so I thank you for your diligence in bringing this to us.
The other? Councilman Graham?
Yes, but thank you for your report. I think it was very concise, and certainly the numbers are pretty astounding. Just to clarify, the $287,000 job was done in 2018,
That is correct.
and it's, how much of that is still, does it all need to be redone?
So the markings that you can see out there now that are still in pretty good shape, most of those are the thermoplastic. The paint usually lasts about a season if it's done thick enough. If you try and go too thin, it may not even last a whole season. So a lot of the striping in the city is gone, all gone.
So that $287,000 is spent. Much of it needs to be redone.
Much of it needs to be redone. That is correct.
Okay. Well, I think you've made your point to me.
Mr. Mayor. Oh.
Councilman Coffey, do you have a question?
Well, you answered my price questions, which I think this is fantastic. In terms of the equipment, that larger project, is this the same piece of equipment that they have?
They had what's called a long line striper. It's actually a vehicle to do the lines, and it's a truck that has big pots of paint and multiple heads, and then they just drive along to do the long line striping. The thermoplastic that they did is done with a walk behind piece of equipment, and where they used the thermoplastic was really a cross box and at stop bars at stop lights. You get a lot more wear at those areas because traffic is stopping and starting, and so that paint doesn't last as long in those areas, and that's why they put the thermoplastic down there.
What's the time difference? When you have a big vehicle like that, you can do more lines in bulk, I would imagine, than a smaller unit such as this.
That would be correct. It is much quicker, but that's a $200,000 plus piece of equipment as well. And it's something that we would use to do roughly 35 miles of lines per year. And it just seems kind of outlandish to spend that much money on a piece of equipment that we would use for 2 weeks a year.
Actually, and one more question. Would you be able to, I would imagine this would work on the chip seal roads as well if we decided to ever strike those.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
The thing about the chip seal, yeah, well, we just usually chip seal roads, or the roads that we're working on chip sealing, I should say, the ones that we're doing the double chip seal, those are residential roads for the most part and don't have striping at all. But that's not to say that, like, for example, we could do a chip seal out here on Lakeshore and fog seal over that and go right in and stripe.
Excellent. Thank you.
Any more questions?
I just wanted to provide one clarification if I could. It wouldn't be our intent to do the striping, say on, new projects like the Lakeshore project, for example, the striping associated with that project, a large project like that, we would still include that as part of the contract amount, but this is more for our regular maintenance of stuff. Now, a couple of years after that project's done, we may want to use our machine to do that striping, but I just wanted to provide that clarification.
Good point. Thank you.
All right, we'll open the public hearing. Is there any public comment? Madam Clerk?
I've not received any town hall or emails on this item, and it does not look like anyone in the Zoom has their hand raised, so.
Bring it back to the council. Any more questions? I have just one. If there's no, I have one comment. I think the original 280,000 was a grant that our previous public works director was able to get. So that's why they went straight forward for it, went for it when they did. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Councilor Kramer, please.
Mr. Mayor, I would make a motion to authorize the purchase of a Draco Line Laser V250 DC Reflective Series Self-Propelled Gas Hydraulic Airless Line Striper, model 25D343 from Interstate Sales of Auburn, California.
Second. Okay. There's a motion by Councilman Kramer, and we have a second by Vice Mayor Purdock. Have a roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Claffey,
Aye.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdock,
Aye.
Mayor Slurton.
Aye. All right, we'll move on to item number 12. Staff report by our city manager, Mr. Al Toro.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. So this is kind of a cleanup item. As you know, we spent a lot of time over the last few years, and then particularly over the last couple of months, discussing the zoning ordinance. And your council recently approved an update, complete replacement of our previous zoning ordinance with the new version. What we discovered, unfortunately, shortly after that was done, that it didn't include some changes that the council had recently made related to commercial cannabis businesses in the city. So as the council will recall, I believe it was, we started the discussion maybe back in August or September, but I believe it was early October that the council adopted an ordinance to essentially limit the cap on the number of commercial cannabis businesses that could operate within the city, with the exception of retail dispensaries. And so that change was made, and then we had the zoning ordinance update before the planning commission, and somehow it got lost in the shuffle, and so that change did not make it into the new ordinance. And so obviously we think that staff's recommendation to go ahead and make the change that was made previously. We have received, I believe, 4 cannabis related applications for use permits since that time. I think 3 of those are related or will be impacted by this ordinance change. And of course, those applications were made based on the assumption that they would be able to move forward. So hopefully that kind of clarifies the situation, and I'll be happy to address any questions that the council members may have.
Do we have any questions for staff and the council? If not, we'll open the public hearing. Do we have any comments from the public on this one? Madam Clerk?
No one on the Zoom has their hand raised for comment, and I've not received any email or town hall comment on this item, Mr. Mayor.
All right, I'll bring it back to the council. Any other additional questions or comments? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd like to make the Motion to hold the first reading and read it by title only of ordinance number 249-2020, and ordinance amending section 18-43-050A of chapter 18 of the Clearlake Municipal Code related to the commercial cannabis business. Waive further reading and set second reading and adoption for the meeting in January 21st.
We have a second.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Overton and a second by Councilman Kramer. Roll call vote, please.
Councilmember Overton,
Aye.
Councilmember Clacky,
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdom,
Aye.
Mayor Slaughter.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, we'll go on to item number 13. Discussion and possible action related to the proposed request for rate increase by Golden State Water Company. Mr. City Manager, please.
Yeah, so this was a future agenda item that was brought up by Mayor Slotin in December, I believe it was. So I can kind of give an overview of the situation. So as you know, there's 4 separate water districts that provide service within the city of Clearlake. One of those is Golden State Water Company, which is a privately owned company that serves 2,100 customers. That company is regulated by the California Public Utilities Commission. And so whenever a private water company wants to request a rate increase, they submit an application to the Public Utilities Commission, and then there's a relatively lengthy process that they must go through in order to have the commission approve that rate increase or some type of rate increase. So right now we're in the public comment period of that. It was initially set to end on January 21st. I have been corresponding with a group within the Public Utilities Commission, that's the California Ratepayer Advocates, and they gave me some additional information that indicates that while there has been a commissioner assigned to this case and administrative law judge, the formal schedule and all that hasn't been finalized yet at this point. So there probably will be, some additional time to provide comments throughout the process. Even with the original schedule, I think the final application wouldn't be approved until late this year, like November, December. So anyway, that's kind of background. It's pretty complicated. There's a lot of process stuff. I don't claim to know all the details about that. There are a lot of folks out there that are willing to help us understand, but I think Mayor Slotin brought this up because of concern the level of the rate increase. So there was a rate increase a couple of years ago. The one that's being proposed at this time would be, so I just want to clarify here while I'm thinking about it. If you look at some of the information, this isn't the only system that Golden State owns, and they're requesting a rate adjustment in a number of systems. So there are some numbers which are in the staff report that show like a 14.9% increase in 2022. That's an average of all the systems. But if you look at the Clearlake specific area rates, which were included in your packet, that would be 21% in 2022, 4.22% in 2023, and 4.5% in, it says 2023 in the staff report, but that should be 2024. So there's a lot of information there. I will try to address questions that the council may have about this. A lot of them I probably can't answer right now, but I guess really what we want to see is, first of all, is the council interested in providing public comment to the Public Utilities Commission on this request? And if so, kind of how do you want to move forward? It'll take us some time to draft a response. Supervisor Sabatier has been following this issue as well. Earlier today or this afternoon, he sent me a sort of draft letter that he's been working on and plans to submit individually, if not request the Board of Supervisors respond. So I'm sure he'd be willing to share that letter. I read through quickly this afternoon. Has a lot of good content in it, but just kind of wanted to see where the council is on this and how you would like us to proceed.
If council has any questions for staff? Vice Mayor?
Thank you for the support, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. I think that the Golden State Water Company does a great job in the product that they provide. However, we have looked since they came to this area and began providing water. We've had increases primarily to improve their system, including main lines and things like this. When we look at some of the road improvements that we're wanting to do in the future in the Sulphur Fire area, as well as other locations, some of those main lines that are still in that area have not been replaced or updated in a number of years, which was part of their original rate increases. I'm thinking dating back almost 20 years. My recommendation would be, could we have, for the public's approval and for them to review, a report from Golden State, perhaps management, on what their intention is, what their business plan is for the next year to 10 years. I think it might be a benefit for the public to hear that, because we've been subject to multiple rate increases over the years. We haven't seen much infrastructure improvement. So I would be in favor of that.
Councilman Elder.
Well, I'm in favor of definitely sending the letter. I think increase is just, kind of extraordinary for our area. Literally people will ask what water company it is and then will not buy a house because of this water company's rates already. So I think it's going to be really detrimental for us in these areas here that have this water company if we don't try to fight this. So I do like the idea of having some information, but I still, even with the information, they didn't follow through with what they said when they came for the first increase. And so I'd like to, I wouldn't mind knowing what they've already done, but I'm still against, I think we need to fight the rate increase. I think it's just going to be too detrimental for our people to sell homes.
Some questions or comments?
Yeah, this is
Questions.
Questions just now. Go ahead, Councilman Carter.
Well, I have comments. I don't have questions yet.
Okay. And we'll open the public hearing on this one. Do we have any comments from the public on this?
I don't see anyone on Zoom with their hand raised. Oh, I can check that. Supervisor Sabatier has his hand raised. Go ahead, Supervisor.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. I think this is a very important topic. The CPUC does every 3 years allows for Golden State to do a rate increase. For 2019, 2020, and 2021, it's a 16% increase total. And here we're looking at a 30% increase. So that means in the course of 6 years, it would be a 46% increase, which to me, at the cost that it already is close to insanity. We have a 33% poverty rate in the city of Clearlake, average household income of about $29,000, which means on an average bill, people are almost paying 10% of their annual income directly for water. Not any other bill, just water. I understand why they're asking for these increases. I'm not certain that we're getting the upgrades to the infrastructure that we truly need. I would love for them to focus on fire flow and making sure that fire hydrants are where they're supposed to be. But the reason they're asking for the increases is because they don't have access to grants like a nonprofit water district or a city-run water district would allow access for. And so they have to place the burden on the end user. In my letter that I've written, I've decided that I can't just complain. I need to offer solutions. And granted, I'm not really a fan of the solutions that I'm offering, but we need to find a way for Golden State as a private company to be able to obtain grants, to be able to increase and enhance the infrastructure of their water system without having to place the burden on people who are already impoverished. This cost for water, I know that a few of you or a couple of you at least on the council have this water district. So you understand what the rates are like. In certain areas, especially as you travel around the park, I would bet that that is the reason we don't see taken care of yards, green grass, well landscaped and manicured properties, because the cost is just prohibitive. And so we will not see a change in the way that that area of the city looks like until there can be a change in the way that they can obtain funds to work on their infrastructure. One of the things that the CPUC says is that you must have safe, reliable, and affordable or reasonable rates. And to me, that goes beyond the reasonable. Especially, I've also brought up the 2019 annual report from American Waters, which is the parent company of Golden State Water. And they brag about, and I'm going to read it directly to you because I think it's kind of disgusting. We delivered a dividend increase for the 65th consecutive year while improving earnings per share by 33% or 30% adjusted. Then they say, diluted earnings per share from the water segment for the year ended December 31st, 2019 increased by 42 cents per share as compared to the same period in 2018, largely due to the approval of the water general rate case in May 2019. So they're bragging about in their annual report that their shares went up because of the general rate case that was approved by the CPUC. I would love to see restrictions where it just goes directly to the infrastructure, not to the shareholders. I get it that it's a private company, but water is a life necessity. And for us to have to deal with the burden of the cost for them to enrich themselves, there is a problem there. I love the staff. I love the people that work there. I think that the service is great, but the overall parent company is not seeing how the impacts to the city of Clearlake is in comparison. I was looking at other cities that they work with where the average household income is in the $50,000 range with only an 8% poverty rate. And I'm asking them to look at poverty rate, to look at household income when approving rate increases, and to also come up with a different way for them to fund their infrastructure needs. And I'm very happy to share that letter with you. It's quite a long letter and it would be very boring for me to read it to you, but I'd be happy to share it with you if you would like it.
Thank you, Supervisor Satterthwaite. And do we have any additional comments from Zoom or through our portal?
There are no additional hands raised on Zoom, and I've not received any emailed or open town hall comments on this, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, we'll close the public hearing. I think Councilman Clappy had some comments.
I did, and I was hoping that someone from Golden State would be online or comment. So I went through and I looked at the GRC for Clearlake and the fact sheet. And I looked at that, I compared it to another city or another customer service area. And I was blown away at the rate increase. So then I started looking at another one. I went through all 22 service areas in the state of California that they own. Out of all 22, Clearlake service area has the highest rate increase from 2020 to 2022. Right now, for every dollar that a Clearlake resident spends, the average customer in a different service area is around 27 to 33 cents. So, 3 times the cost. Right now, this is even before the rate increase for Clearlake residents when paying for water. I then so the way they structured their GRC was to take the average residential customer usage. And they have us listed at at an average resident using 3,740 gallons of water. Almost every other service area they have listed at 6,732 gallons of water. So not only do they have the highest rate increase per dollar amount, but if you then factor in the hike per gallon, it is absolutely ridiculous. I then took their measure and compared it to the other water companies in our city. So Highlands and Canocti, using their 3,740 gallons per customer plus base rate and all that. Highlands and Canocti, a customer who might be living a block away, is paying $60 a month. A Golden State customer is paying $106 a month, which would essentially be $500 a year. Now, it's actually worse when you think about the actual usage because their 3,740 gallons average takes into account vacation rentals. A big part of their service area, I assume that's why the average usage is so low, is along Lakeshore Drive. So if you double the gallon usage, that difference gets a lot higher. So I think this is, oh, and one more thing, investment. So Golden State Water Company is investing, according to these reports, and I'm just taking these from their fact sheets, $272 million over the course of the 3-year span in infrastructure improvements. Clearlake is getting less than $500 million. And that's all in their public reports. So we need answers on why, one, our rate is so high before the rate increases, why out of 22 customer service areas, we have the highest rate increase, and why it is so much more expensive to deliver water in one section of city compared to the other section. Thank you.
We have some additional comments from Councilman Overton.
I can answer some of those questions. I had those.
Thank you.
I had some of those same questions and I went directly to them. One, the rate increase is because they're smaller here than their other areas, but the expenses are still the same. So, because they're a private company, they want to make money. And so the rates, they're going to increase the rates because of the small capacity that they have here. But second is 15 years ago when I bought my place, the reason why I don't have grass anymore was because my water bill was almost $500 to water my lawn. And this is why I'm saying it's detrimental because people now when I'm going to go and look for another house is going to be what water company do you have? Because that's going to really hurt our areas. But that's what they're saying why they need the rate increase is because their service area here is so small, but it still costs the same, and the infrastructure is there that needs repaired.
I respond to that. But I don't know water, but I know Excel sheets, and I looked at the 7 districts that have less than 5,000 customers. It's the range in those other districts are basically the same. For every dollar that a Clearlake resident spends in Morongo Valley, 33 cents. In Calabac, I'm going to botch all these names, but smaller districts, 28 cents. Wrightwood customer service area, 35 cents. So they may have told you that. Their numbers aren't bearing that out.
Okay, we have, go ahead. Go ahead. Okay.
Yeah,
We can come back.
I have to agree with my fellow council members. Although like Golden State has been a good community member. They've donated to a number of causes, including our emergency evacuation shelter. It still doesn't offset what this concerns me greatly. They're going to CPUC for increases. Basically, they're because we're a small water district. That's exactly why this is so much higher here than it is in a larger district. And I think that Councilmember Claffey brought up some numbers that really point out that that doesn't have to be true. I think a direct comparison to our other two, I wasn't aware that Lower Lake County Water District served Clear Lake at all, but I know Canocti and Highlands, I think their rates are a little bit lower, but when you delve into their underlying problems, they've got some structural issues and limitations that are probably going to drive their rates up at some point in time. But I don't think that this company should be able to put the full amount of these increases, this significant, 22% increase here when it's 14% overall. That's just not right. And especially, again, agreeing with Councilmember Overton, it is gonna, people that see that, that's one of the things they're gonna look at. And hey, geez, I don't think I can afford to own that house up there. Because it just, I'd like to water my lawn. I'd like to have a garden. I can't do that there. So they're gonna look somewhere else. So it is gonna have a negative impact on us. And I believe that there is perhaps a member of an employee of Golden State Water that's listening in and may want to offer comment here. If I would entertain it, we listen to it. If I did want to offer a comment with regard to some of these questions that we brought up. If not, I'm all for a letter criticizing this rate of increase.
So, thank you. Vice Mayor Murdoch has it.
I just want to echo the sentiments here by both council members and thank Councilmember Claffey for his deep work on this. I think staff has direction on how to proceed.
Councilman Open had some additional.
Yeah, well, I was just gonna say that, I know that several years back, they tried to get our area to incorporate as a big group in California so that they could spread the rate around. Clear Lake residents voted to not do that. So just a little history on that. And I'm not sure if these other areas, districts did vote to do that, spread the cost out through the other ones. So, and that could, I think the miscommunication from the water company at that time was that everybody thought their rates were going up, and the reality is I think their rates would have went down if they would have all joined together. So I'm not sure if those other, I just want to be fair. I'm not sure if those other districts voted to spread the wealth, out evenly. That this area voted. I didn't have that water company at the time, but they voted to not do it. So.
Okay, I have some additional comments. We have a major project coming down on the north end of town on Lake Shore at San Joaquin. Major road project. And Golden State Water has no ability to fix infrastructure in that area, even after they've gotten some rate increase. They promised, but as you said, not less than $500,000. And that's something that has to be done within the next 6 months, because 6 months from now, hopefully, we'll have construction going on. And if there is they can't touch the street for 5 years after that. And we have significant fire flow issues in that area. By the way, we have significant fire flow issues all through the city. And Golden State, just like Highlands, has no ability to get grant money for infrastructure. They are prohibited from it because they're private companies, and one of them is a mutual company. There is a really disconnect with the service and excuse me, I shouldn't say service. Both water districts have dealt with their customer service is excellent. Don't get me wrong, but their infrastructure is old, aged, and insufficient for any kind of development. If you really look at it, and the only company that can water provider that can provide the ability to get grants is Canocti. So that's my comment. So I am all in favor of a very strong letter to the CUP to object to this rating.
Mr. Mayor. So we do have, Mr. Roby, who's been running the PEG station, is interested in making a public comment. you're interested
Well, we
in taking
can
it.
reopen.
And then Supervisor Sabatier also has his hand raised, and Mr. Ahart is on Zoom and has his hand raised. So if you would like to.
Okay, we'll give the floor to Mr. Ambrosi first.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I don't have the ability to Zoom from that. Anyway, this is, the three water companies have been a long-standing issue in the city of Clearlake, and this particular water company. Anyway, to cut to the chase, I think long run, maybe 50 years, all three should be consolidated. But the way to start is for the city to look for a grant to buy this one from Golden State, because the city can get grants and the city can improve it and do things like he said that they can't as a private company. So just something to think about.
Thanks. We have a public comment by Mr. Ahart from Golden State Water, I believe.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes, Mr. Ahart, please proceed.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you guys for getting involved in the participation of the rate case hearing. There's been very good points made by all who have commented, and I support your comments. From that, we will provide you with some information and answer your questions the best we can. Obviously we do live in a repressed area, and we're all very well aware of that, but the cost of doing business is the cost of doing business. And there are a fewer number of residents or customers in our rate making area. And that coupled with what we do as far as maintenance goes and improvement goes, I mean, I really want to provide you guys with some capital improvement information, because you don't, just because you don't see it happening in your neighborhood doesn't mean it doesn't occur. We do quite a bit of capital improvement, and we have plans as well. And the process requires us to show our income and show our projections for what we are going to do. And you guys mentioned, I mean, you're very well aware of the process, that there's a division of ratepayer advocates whose sole purpose is to ensure that what we're doing is in the benefit of our customers. And your comments will influence, what they do and how they approach things. So again, we thank you for getting involved, and I have some homework, and I'll provide you, the city council, with answers to as many of the questions as I could write down as they came up.
Thanks, Mr. Ahart. We appreciate the comments. We have, Councilman.
I have a question for Mr. Ahart.
Please proceed.
Mr. Ahart, Mayor Slotin mentioned during his comments the work that we're going to be doing on, was it San Joaquin?
San Joaquin and Lakeshore.
And Lakeshore, in which you have apparently lines going down. He also indicated that those were inadequate in some areas, if not all the areas. Once we put that paving in, just like in our conversation this afternoon, I mentioned to you, and as Mayor Slotin said, we're not going to allow any digging up of that pavement unless they're going to replace that pavement edge to edge for the length that they dig it up. So if you have infrastructure changes that need to happen in those streets, are you prepared to be doing that this spring?
Well, let me first start by saying that obviously we work closely with the city and with their paving projects, and I mean we have in the past replaced water mains prior to a paving project to ensure that we weren't going to be in that area. The area that is proposed, Lakeshore Drive and San Joaquin, both have solid infrastructure. They have, the only thing that might be of any kind of concern would be service line. We have 8-inch water mains in both San Joaquin and Lakeshore Drive. So for us to go through the expense of replacing every service line along there, it wouldn't be beneficial. I do not believe that our infrastructure is going to have any issues in the near future. That would directly answer that question. I also wanted to make sure, I failed to mention earlier that we absolutely do want to combine our rate making area with larger areas so that, obviously the customer base economies of scale come into play. And we're required to file every 3 years. So, basically some of the things that you're seeing now, we've had to go through this process every 3 years. We don't just randomly ask for rate increases. We're required to go through this process. So I wanted to make sure that was clear as well.
Thank you.
And we hope that you will support us in that effort to combine our rate making areas to get larger rate making areas.
Thank you very much. Supervisor Gautier has some additional comments?
He lowered his hand.
Oh, he's lowered his hand. Okay. All right. Do we have any more discussion? And just Clappy, Councilman Clappy, please.
Mr. Ayart, thank you for answering questions and coming on. I push back against this is a small ratepayer area when I'm looking at least 6 other service areas that have at least 3,300 customers or less. And in almost all the cases, we're paying double or triple. The rate hike is the highest among the, if that rate hike was 15%, and yeah, we're paying a little bit more, I get it, but somehow we're paying the most and we're getting the highest rate hike. I think we need answers as to why that is.
Absolutely. We'll provide answers. As far as I'd have to look deeper into the other rate making areas that you're speaking of, but this system is an old system, and it has been impoverished for a long time. So, when the initial installation before we purchased it was done in a lot of these areas, it was subpar to expansion, to development, and all that is we're replacing as quickly as we can to get it replaced and try to keep our rates as low as we can and still make the improvements that are required. Mr. Slutin mentioned some fire flow issues. I'm not aware, the area specific that he's talking about. I know that, we just provided fire flow for a project that was outside of our service territory. So, maybe there are some small areas that we have that have smaller mains that we do need to replace. And those are the ones that we're focusing on, are the old, small diameter mains that are made out of steel that need to be replaced. I believe, and I can do research to validate this, our system has more miles of that than any of the other systems that you're referring to. So our need is greater and our customer base is smaller. They kind of work against what we're trying to accomplish, which is to keep our rates as low as possible, or lower than they are.
All right, Mr. Ayart, we appreciate your comments, and if there's any additional information you can provide us, that would be awesome.
One other thing to note for Mr. Claffey is that you mentioned Morongo and Calipatria. They're in a region where they're on regionalized rates. So they're combined with other rate making areas. So their increases are smaller because they're spread over a larger base. We're attempting, we're going to file in our next rate case for the ability, we're going to try to get it, ours combined. In the past has failed.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Ayard. Let's move on. I think we want to, so, Mr. City Manager, you have directions of what?
Well, it seems pretty clear you want us to provide comment on this case. I just want to make sure there's clarification on how you want us to proceed. So it sounds like Mr. Ahart is going to provide some of the information you requested. Hopefully he'll send that to me as well as the city council, and then we can work on putting some things together. I think it would be best to go ahead and at least provide initial public comment prior to January 21st. I think we may have the opportunity to do additional things later if we would like. The 21st is our next council meeting, so I just want to make sure if, you want to have staff work with the mayor to finalize the thing or whatever, and we can bring it back just for informational purposes at the next meeting, or, if you want to have a special meeting to approve the letter, or kind of how you want to handle this as we move forward.
Any direction from staff, from the council here on?
I'm comfortable with you working with the mayor. I think the knowledge.
Yeah.
I think he knows the direction that we all want to go to.
It sounds like we it may make sense to lean on Councilmember Claffey and the research that he did as well, if he's willing to help participate.
So I was gonna say, and Supervisor Sabatier, I was gonna say that too. We've got great information there, and then Supervisor Sabatier had some good points too. So
absolutely. He's done a fair amount of research.
Work around with all of you guys would be good.
I kind of copied Mr. or Supervisor Sabatier letter to a certain degree, and gave a personal letter to the company. Very good. I think we have direction.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the mayor's appointments. Okay, I have a list here. Melissa, do you need to comment on that? Or can I?
No, Mr. Mayor, you can go ahead and announce your appointment.
Okay, on the abandoned vehicle authority, Mr. Vice Mayor Turnock is the member, and David Claffey is the alternate. On the sewer district, it's me, which I've never attended any meeting or been asked to attend to, and I don't think I will ever will. But then we have the resource management committee, and this Councilman Overton will be the member, and David Claffey will be the alternate. We have the integrated waste management task force. We have Mr. Vice Mayor Turnock as the member, and Councilman Claffey is the alternate. We don't have anything on the vector control board. On the PEG board, we have Councilman Claffey as the member, and Mr. Mayor.
I appointed Mr. Gianbruno when I was serving as mayor, and I believe he's just retained that position, but that is an appointment by our council.
Okay, I was unaware, so
So I just, that would continue.
Thank you. It doesn't expire. Correct. So we're still good. PEG, so I mentioned the PEG board. Traffic Safety Committee members are Councilman Overton and Councilman Vice Mayor Turnock is the alternate. League of Cities, both the Business and the Legislative Committee, Councilman Overton will be the member, and Mr. Councilman Kramer will be the alternate. The Area Planning Commission Council / Transit Authority, Councilman Kramer and Councilman Vice Mayor Turnock will be the members, and I will be the alternate. Lake County Clean Water Program Advisory Council. We don't have anybody on it yet. I don't know, do we need to, or is it conceded that we have in the past?
Well, I know that when it started up, I sat on that, and then we decided that the city public works person or the engineer at the time when I was on it, we appointed, but then there was always a council.
I went along with the city staff.
Any council member, Mr. Councilman?
If council member Overton doesn't want to do it, I'll do it.
I don't mind.
You've only got me on one already.
Yeah. They're very interesting.
So Councilman Overton will be the, and do we have to have an alternate too? No? Okay, we'll move on. Obviously, the planning commission, they're appointed, and we have some vacancies coming up or reappointments in March, I see. The zoning update committee, I think we're almost done with that. I'm still one of the council members on it, and we still have to have some work on it, I believe.
Yeah, we would be bringing the design review manual back is basically the last thing on that.
So we see that, do we need to appoint the planning commission appointees, or do they do that themselves?
Previously, I think they did the appointments. So we had, I guess, the history there. I mean, the last person that served on that was Chair Bean, and then, he's retired from the commission, so we need to ask someone to join again.
So when is the next planning commission?
So we're planning to have one at the end of January. We have a couple of use permits coming forward, so we could add it on to that.
Great, that'd be great. Okay, we have Measure B, Citizen Oversight Committee. Councilman Clappy needs to appoint somebody.
Do you want to address this, Melissa?
Let me finish for a second. Councilman Overton needs to appoint somebody, and Vice Mayor Burdock needs to appoint somebody.
I was just going to point out, this is actually a separate agenda item, the next one, if we want to discuss that.
Clearlake Marketing Committee, David, Councilman Claffey as council member together with Councilman Overton. We need to appoint a community member, and I think there is some person that's very interested in, I believe, is that correct, Councilman Claffey?
Yep.
Do that person has to be appointed at this point, or? Yeah.
Right.
So the normal process, Mr. Mayor and council members, would be to open up an application period and then allow applications to come in and then have an appointee be chosen by the majority of the council.
Can we put it on the next council meeting?
I can open up the application process for this. I'm awaiting direction from the mayor on it to do so.
Yes.
And we can give a period of time for applications to come in and either have it on the next meeting or.
Then we have, I have not been approached by the mayor selection committee, but I guess I can make my recommendations on that.
Yeah, you'll be approached by a county.
Yeah, so it's kind of rare that meets, but the county clerk of the board organizes that. And so if there's a need for that, then CAO will reach out to you on the mayor selection committee.
Yeah, she approached me twice in 2 years, so it didn't happen.
Well, my suggestion would be then, I continue on as member on LAFCO, with Mr. Councilman Burdock as the alternate, and the airport commission, Councilman Kramer would also be the alternate.
Excuse me?
And Mr. Kramer as the member on the airport commission, and then.
You said as alternate.
And then me as the alternate.
Okay.
Okay, those were my appointments.
You need a motion, is that correct?
Yes, we do.
Do we?
Yes,
Yes. I'd like to make the motion that we accept the mayor's appointment.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilman Overton and a second by Vice Mayor Burdock.
You probably just need to double check there's no public comment all the time.
Sorry.
And our received any emails regarding this item, or there are no open town hall comments, and there is no hand raised in this, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. So we have a motion, Bill, by Councilmember Overton, and a second by Vice Mayor Burke. Roll call, please.
Sure. Councilmember Kramer.
Aye.
Councilmember Clappy.
Aye.
Councilmember Overton.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdue.
Aye.
Mayor Sutton.
Aye.
Okay. We'll go to our last business item. Consideration of appointments to the Measure V Oversight Committee. City Manager, if you want to start with that.
I think maybe Ms. Swanson's prepared to address this.
Honorable Mayor and council members, the Measure V Citizen Oversight Committee was established by ordinance with the passage of Measure V in 2016 to review expenditures and appropriations of tax revenue to ensure those revenues are spent or appropriated as set forth in the Measure V expenditure plan. Each council member appoints one member for a term that coincides with that appointing council member's term. Vice Mayor Purdue and council members Claffey and Overton should appoint a member or direct staff to advertise for a vacancy. If an appointment is made at the dais, council should adopt a resolution naming the appointees, which is included in the staff report. Committee appointments must fill out an application and be a resident of the city at the time of appointment and during the term of service. Additionally, if a full committee is appointed, Mayor Sutton should select a chair for the committee. If a full committee is not appointed, staff would recommend waiting until a full committee is appointed before choosing a chair. The next meeting for the committee is scheduled in October, and that's my report.
Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, if I could, I've had a conversation with the mayor about this, and we actually talked about this a little bit as one of our items at I think just our last council meeting. Some members of the committee felt like that there's maybe some confusion on, exactly what the purpose is and that type of thing. And I think from a staff perspective, certainly it's pretty cumbersome to sort of have that lengthy discussion on exactly what we're supposed to be doing every time that we have a meeting. And so we obviously need to make the appointments, but my recommendation to the council would be that staff work on putting together, review the Measure V ordinance that was passed by the voters, work on putting together a draft mission of the committee, and then bring that back to the council and have you review that, kind of adopt something, and then provide some real clear direction on, there are the limitations that were in the ordinance, but if there's other things that you want this committee to look at, focus on, if you want them to meet more often for one reason or another, you could provide some direction on that. But I really think that we need to have some strong direction from the council and this committee moving forward, because it's just kind of clunky the way it's been working. And so that would be my recommendation. And Mr. Good and myself have talked about this. So if the council's okay with that, it'd be nice to, have some consensus now and then move forward with your appointments.
Do you have any comments on city managers? Yes, please.
I agree. We kind of talked about this. One of my appointees felt like it was, and he's going to be moving, so he won't be returning to this seat. But he felt like it was very confusing to everybody about what their job was, and so we had kind of talked about that. And he said, yeah, it was like over and over every meeting, and they're really not feeling like they're accomplishing what is their purpose. So he really suggested that maybe there was something in place before we replaced him, so that whoever comes on really knows what the job is going to be. If we appoint somebody now, even I feel like we need to do this step first, so that the people who are coming on actually know what the job is. So And it's very clear that when we appoint somebody, that they actually know what their process is going to be. And that way, if we want to change what that committee is going to be doing, I think we need to do it before we appoint people to it. But
Okay, Vice Mayor Burdock?
What would you like to hear from Councilman Kramer first?
Councilman
I agree with Councilmember Robertson. I also spoke with one of the members of the committee. He actually came to me. He wasn't my appointee, but he has my phone number. And he had the same exact remarks. There's no direction on what's being asked of them, and they need to have more clear direction. So I absolutely agree with your recommendation.
And I concur with the sentiments already expressed. Is it possible, though, to make those appointments with the understanding that the city manager will provide that direction once the appointees are seated?
Councilman Claffey, you have some comment?
Oh, no, I just concur. I spoke to a few members as well. I watched the last two meetings, and it didn't seem like it was an efficient use of time. And I think that it's incumbent on us as a council to really define what it is.
I have a question for our city attorney on this. Do we have to appoint him now, or can we wait until we have a better understanding and written down their emission station based on the measure itself?
Oh, I don't think requirement to do it now. I think you could wait. Unless I'm missing something, I'd like to hear from, city manager or city clerk, but I'm not aware of a time commitment. You got to do it tonight.
Okay.
I don't have a meeting scheduled right now.
No, I mean, yeah, well, the next meeting wouldn't be until October, so I mean, there's a little bit of
I
time.
do have a comment about that, though. I do think we need to have a more regular cadence, especially with the projects that we have coming up. I think biannually, it just isn't frequent enough.
Well, I mean, that's a discussion that, from staff's perspective, we don't feel like that there's real confusion on what the purpose of the committee is. But if you want it to be something different than what's outlined in the ordinance, then, the ordinance is pretty specific in that the committee's role is to review expenditures of Measure B funds and make a recommendation to the council on whether they think those funds are appropriate and consistent with the expenditure plan. The expenditure plan is pretty specific on what those funds can be used for. And, there's the tendency, or there has been a tendency of some committee members to want to kind of push this in one direction or push it in another direction, which is fine if that's what the council wants, but that's not how it's set up now. And so I think somehow we need to resolve this because those members kind of keep pushing in that certain direction. So if that's what the council wants from the committee, then great. And now's not the time to have that discussion. That's not what's agendized, but it sounds like there's very clear wishes from the full council to have that discussion.
So I was going to say that we can agendize that and talk about. Bring something back to us and then we can discuss.
What Mr. Goodman and I had talked about was bringing that back before the council in March. I don't know if that sounds okay with you or if you would like to try to do it sooner, but that's what we're currently thinking.
I have just one comment on that. I like to see biannual meetings kind of happen. So, if it's October would be a normal time, what is 6 months before, is that March? April.
Well, I think rather than just talk about how many times you want them to meet, we probably need to talk about, is there something besides reviewing expenditures that you want them to do? Because that's why we have the meetings after we have our audit done and the books are closed out in October, because that's when we have the full finalized expenditures. So that's why we really need to talk about, so what's that role? If you want them to meet more, what are you going to have them talk about? It doesn't seem like it would be very beneficial to talk about sort of mid-year expenditures at that point. Maybe there's some benefit, but that's why I think we need to have a broader discussion about what do you really want from them?
So if I might, we want some clarification. Is taking the Measure V mandate for an oversight committee and kind of have a mission statement for that and then come back and it looks like we have more than enough time.
So we're okay with coming back in March?
Yeah. Councilman Clapper. Councilman Overton, please.
Yeah, so like for me, I don't have a member anyway. And so I would like to request that we put out for applications for that while we're working on this here. Give us some time to put it out or I have not had anybody come forward or anybody that I talked to that was interested. So if anybody has anybody, great. And, but I do think that, we might, need to put it out to the public also, just for courtesy, if there's anybody else that might.
So I believe that Councilman Blackie and Vice Mayor has some person in mind for this one.
I was ready to move forward at the point.
Are you okay with this though? Okay.
That's the will of the council.
I think city manager is this marching orders on this.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, for clarification, I'll be running applications for one seat on the Measure V Oversight Committee. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay.
May I ask, can they go ahead and appoint theirs, even though I don't have one?
Well, I guess, that's a question for you. The way it's written is they appoint individually, so if they still want to appoint them regardless of the change in folks in the committee, I guess they could do that, and then we could, Ms. Overton could wait.
Please.
So I know my appointee would actually prefer to see this process play out. So I'm fine waiting.
Yeah, I'm sure mine will as well.
We just didn't want to step.
All right.
Thank you.
Okay, that'll work then. All right. Don't have a action item for this one, so. we'll
Oh, wait.
move on.
We do have a public comment.
Oh, public comment, sorry.
Maybe not. Miss Allman, she lowered her hand now. So.
Okay, we'll move on to our next item, which is the representation to item number 16. Consider appointing councilman as a representative to the League of Cities, Redwood Empire, and also to attend the business meetings. There are two parts of that, is that correct?
There's a business meeting and then there's a conference.
Okay.
Of course, everybody is.
That's for the primary and the Redwood Empire, or for the whole league and the Redwood.
I think Ms. Swanson would be happy to present the staff report if you'd like.
Excuse me.
Honorable Mayor and council members, the League of California Cities is an association of California city officials who work together to influence policy decisions that affect cities. Clearlake is a member of the Redwood Empire Division of Cal City. Each member appoints a voting representative and an alternate to attend division meetings and legislative committee meetings. This appointment does not preclude any council member from attending any meeting. It is appropriate at this time for the council to adopt a resolution affirming Mayor Sweeten's recommendation for appointment to the division. That's my report.
So I have, my appointees are Councilman Overton is the member, Councilman Kramer is the alternate. Do we have any public comment on that?
Mr. Mayor, I have not received any emails or received any open town hall comment on this item, and no one on the Zoom is raising their hand to comment.
So we did a public meeting on that, and do we have any more conversation comments from the council? If not, entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to accept your recommendations for the California League of Cities.
Second.
Second.
We have a motion by Vice Mayor Purdar, second by Councilman Clyde. A resolution of the City Council of the City of Clearlake appointing a representative to represent and vote on behalf of the city at the League of California Cities Redford Empire Division business meetings and represent the city and vote on that division's legislative committee meetings. I'll rephrase the motion.
I concur with your representation of the motion.
Okay. Yeah, can we have a roll call vote, please?
All right, Councilmember Clappy.
Aye.
Councilmember Kramer.
Aye.
Councilmember Overton.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Purdar.
Aye.
And Mayor Simmons.
All right.
Mr. Mayor, I was just looking at my notes and we were going to bring up another committee that we failed to do so. I'm talking about the Burns Valley sort of ad hoc committee related to the property that we purchased by Safeway. There was a discussion previously about the interest in setting up a committee to talk about the ball fields and that development. So I don't know, did you want me to go over what we talked about? Or
Yes, please.
Okay. So the mayor's recommendation was that we appoint a council member, one planning commission member, and then one public member representing Little League, one public member representing some type of interest in soccer, and then someone just representing youth. We had been reached out to the director of the youth center about participating. And so I don't know that we need formal action of the council on this type of makeup of a committee, but we just wanted to bring it up and see if there was any comments. And I think the mayor wished to participate on that committee.
Concur.
Okay, sounds good. Sorry, I almost forgot to write it.
I'm wondering if Councilmember Kramer would like to be a part of that.
I would.
So that would just, we gonna bring back something for an ad hoc committee, or that's it, that's what we're gonna.
Well,
what those positions.
I don't know. I guess with two council members, we probably need to bring it back. If you're wanting to have two council members on the committee, we'll need to bring it back and have the full council make the actual one.
Okay, so then we'll need to bring it back, it's 2 of 1.
No, we will have to bring it back, yeah. So, but we know what the plan is now.
Right, okay.
Okay, next item is the city manager and council members' reports. City Manager Flora.
Okay, yeah, a few items. So, we've been working on the Highlands Park project. The final sort of public meeting is coming up on that on Saturday. So if you haven't provided comment, or regardless of, please spread the word. I sent the survey that's been put together out to all of you. Hopefully at least all of you have filled that out. I mean, it's something that's really important for our scoring on public participation on this. And so please forward it to anyone that you know, and encourage them to, spend 10 minutes to go through the questions on there. And then you can see the meeting. I don't recall the time on Saturday for the meeting, but it's on our website. I did want to let the council know, as you may be getting some questions on this, you're aware of the housing project that started out on 36th Avenue earlier this year. The developer of that project has had some health issues, and work has stopped on that. The city had to step in and do a little bit of work to make sure that was ready for the winter. And I'm not sure the path forward on this project, unfortunately, right now, but just wanted to let you know because the road is closed and the two houses that were started are partially done. But we've been having a lot of discussions and we'll be figuring out some path forward on that. I wanted to give a little update on CDBG funding. There was some CDBG funding through the CARES Act, some COVID-related funding that was allocated to the city quite some time ago, around 150,000. We agreed to focus that funding on the upgrades to the kitchen at the community center. Unfortunately, the process has been extremely slow. We still haven't received that money and been able to move forward on the project. We've been putting some additional pressure on them to get this money out through the Senator McGuire's office. So hopefully that's fruitful. But we did find out just a few minutes before the meeting started about there's a second allocation round that's very similar to that. I haven't had a chance to look through all of the details yet, but that one's going to be significantly larger. I had heard that it may be twice as much, but the allocation for the city looks like almost 445,000. So some of that I think we will need to allocate to the senior center project. What we had wasn't enough to get us where we needed to be, but we'll have to kind of identify the requirements of that grant. And then, of course, there's going to be the normal public hearing process with CDBG and all that. And the council will have to adopt a resolution. And but we'll be working to figure out what we can do with that funding. So, and then we talked about this a couple times, but there is some infrastructure funding related to the 2017 disaster that's handled through CDBG as well, and then some resiliency funding. We've submitted a notice of interest for about $14 million through those programs for road improvements, and are working with them on answering some questions and whatnot. It'll be interesting to see. They claim that they plan to get this money out early in the spring, but that certainly hasn't been our experience with HCD. But you know, there is a lot of increasing pressure, it sounds like, because they're getting a lot of criticism that, you know, this is a 2017 disaster and they still haven't gotten any money out on the street. It's pretty ridiculous. But we'll keep you posted as that that moves forward. The Lakeshore San Joaquin project, everyone's been working really hard on getting that completed. There's been a lot of action this week and next week to try to get all of the kind of final details worked out. But the city engineer and Mr. Goodman let me know today that tentatively expecting to release that project out to bid on February 18th. So hopefully we can keep with that, but it's a good time. Working with the county and Supervisor Sabatier related to vaccination site in the city. They're wanting to try to nail something down. We have talked about utilizing the community center. I'm not sure at this point which direction the county's wanting to go on that, but we need to decide something soon. And so we'll have, you know, there's going to be some coordination required if we are to use that facility. We want to make sure that the seniors' meals are able to still get out and are not impacted by anything there. So we'll work with the Highland Senior Center on coordinating public health. One other issue I wanted to bring up to the council. You're obviously familiar with the plan to sell a portion of the ball fields at Redbud Park for hotel development and then build new and improved facilities for Little League, baseball, soccer, all that at the site that the city recently purchased. This was something that was raised by a community member that we weren't initially aware of, but I've been working with the title company and researching this, and there's some concern about when that property, it was initially donated by a variety of people to the county many, many years ago, developed into a park. And then sometime after the city's incorporation, Austin Park and Redbud Park were donated by the county to the city. But we got some information about potential deed restrictions on the Redbud Park property about using that for anything besides recreational purposes. So we worked through a lot of that. It appears that there's 4 possible sections of the park that may be impacted by that. The biggest section of it is like the marina area, which, we obviously have no intention of changing any of that. There's a couple of other small parcels that don't appear to be impacted by the hotel plan, but, getting into a lot of details here, but the hotel developer is interested in doing maybe some other uses on that site as well. It's still in the ball field area. So anyway, long story short, we're working through that. I've asked the city attorney to start proceedings to do a quiet title process, which is a way through the courts to reach out to any of those folks. And ultimately, we should be able to clarify all that and move forward with the plan that the council sees. So I want you to be aware of that. And then the final thing, there has, we're all aware, there's been a big increase in COVID activity in the community, especially after the Thanksgiving holiday. Things are starting to drop back down again, but they're expecting the case rate to increase significantly due to mingling over Christmas and New Year's holidays. At this time, we have a very robust testing program here with city staff. Staff have the opportunity to be tested almost anytime they want, and a lot of staff are being tested weekly, just as a surveillance testing. But at this time, unless there's other direction from the council, we're planning to continue operating essentially the way we have been over the last 8 months or so. We will be looking to offer some opportunities for remote work if necessary and so forth. We think at this time it makes sense to continue, limiting public input at the council meetings to virtual like we've been doing. But I just want to let the council know, the board of supervisors have been talking about some changes, city of Lakeport, and at this point, we think that we've been pretty successful in the way we've been handling this here, at least as an organization. We don't have plans to limit our counter activity at this point or anything like that. So with that, that's my report.
Councilman Craig. Anything to report on?
Not much. APC meeting, LTA meeting has been canceled for January, so there'll be nothing to report on that. My fishing tournament project with Supervisor Sabatier, we've met a couple times with Jimmy down at the, actually one time at the bait shop, and talked to him fairly extensively in addition to one of the tournament directors that we had talked to previously. And at this point, we're still getting a informal task force together to get more information. But the thing that came out of these initial meetings is that there are 3 things that these fishing tournaments really want to see. At the top of that list is security, and then obviously lodging and food services. So all those things fit into what we're doing. Some thoughts on what we might want to look at. And I'm not going to bring it up now, but for improving the security around Redbud Park at some point in this process. And then an update on the emergency evacuation shelter project. We now have wiring. We're hot out to the shed, and the final piece in that part of it, the wiring part of it, is to actually mount lights inside and outside in the shed and plugs inside for bringing power in to the trailer inside. And then it'll be essentially functional. Well, it is functional right now. It's the only thing we'd have to do with electricity is bring a extension cord in from outside. But it can be used if we do have an emergency that we need to use the shelter for. After that, there's a few other things that I'd like to see happen. Well, we still have fairly significant funds left in that grant that's being administered by LARCA. Mayor Slotin as chair of LARCA committee and myself as the treasurer. So we'll be bringing those, or if anybody has suggestions of things they'd like to see. One of the things that we had talked about, and I think I'd like to, we do have enough funds to go ahead with, would be what you call it, heart defibrillators units that would be mounted at the community center. So other than that, if there's anybody else has any other suggestions that we can tie into the emergency evacuation shelter, let either Mayor Slotin or myself know. And that's my report.
All right, Councilman Claffey.
Thank you. Short report because of the holiday, and hopefully moving forward with these great committees, we can do some good work. I did want to announce the winners of the Great Holiday Light Fight. So the Morse family took first place, the Lambert family second, and the McAllister family third. A lot of participation online on Facebook. I think folks really enjoyed it. We're really excited. We have 3 restaurants that we were able to get gift certificates from to help support them, and then we should be getting those as soon as I get them in the mail. And that's really it. I guess the marketing committee, Mayor Slotin, thank you for letting me take your spot there. I'm really actually excited about the application process, and I think we have 1 seat to fill, but I think there's opportunity to do a lot more with that committee. So if you have an interest or you want to get your feet wet and help in the community, please feel free to either apply through that or reach out, because I think we're going to do a lot of good work this year. So thank you.
I just want to say Happy New Year's to everybody. So, we're in a new year. I hope it feels better than last year. But I really don't have anything to report. I've just been trying to work a little bit with our city manager on what we can do at the community center there, and making sure the kitchen is appropriately built this time when we make that process. So that's pretty much been my concentration. So and hopefully we'll just keep going.
Hey, Vice Mayor Hurdock.
Well, I'd like to thank everybody. I think everybody had a pretty good holiday and New Year. It's good to be back. I would like to report out that the shower trailer from Adventist is back out in the community, providing service in different locales around the county. But I'd also like to commend former Mayor and Councilmember Kramer for getting the city shower trailer ready to go online. And Mr. Flory, if we could hopefully expedite that MOU. I know we have volunteers and people in place that would like to see that utilized. So I don't know.
I think we're really close, so we'll probably see it at the next meeting, hopefully.
That would be great. Thank you, Mr. Jones. And then I have something for a future agenda item.
Okay. I didn't have a whole lot of meetings, but there's a couple of things I want to kind of mention. As you know, even though he's not in our district, Supervisor Bob Brown retired after 20 years on the Board of Supervisors. I want to thank him for all of his contributions to the county. A very passionate person on what he does for this county. We might not always agree with him, but he has this county at his heart. I want to thank him for all his contributions. The little thing I saw that the deadline for application for small business COVID grants has been extended to January 13. So it's anybody out there that wants to do that. I did also meet with, or dropped in at Lamb Printing, which was the winner of the One Team one dream, or is it one dream, one team? I forget.
One team, one dream.
One team, one dream, right? Yeah.
And she was a guest speaker at one of our. It's great to see young entrepreneurs coming into the county. That's very encouraging. I wanted to ask how Officer Barretto is doing, because I understand he was asked quickly to the hospital yesterday. Hopefully he is okay. His thoughts are with me. And my last comment is, we all watched TV a little bit yesterday. It was obviously a disgrace. But I think this could be an opportunity for our national leaders to realize that these kind of politicking, nobody. So let's tone down the rhetoric. And if there's disagreements, have a conversation, have an honest debate based on factual information, and then compromise and move forward. That's how you solve problems that need to be solved. We do that here. That's my comment.
So can we go to, you brought up a question I'd like to answer, I think.
Well, so we did have an officer that was injured during, was assaulted by someone on a routine traffic stop. That officer was taken to the hospital, has been released, is doing okay, may require some surgery, but if you want to check in with me individually, I can give you a little more details, but overall doing okay.
Thanks. Councilman Overton has a redo.
Yeah, a redo. I'll never do so. Well, it's really not a redo. It's the comment on, I'm sorry, I did not honor Mr. Brown for his services for 20 years. And I think it would be very appropriate if the council would agree to send a letter of appreciation, because he did a lot for us during the fires. He was down here. I know he did for me, he was there all the time. And I just think it would be appropriate for us to send a letter of appreciation for his services for our community. Everybody agrees to that?
I concur.
I do. He was certainly helping Lorca a lot during the fires.
All right. No more Councilman's report. We go to last item, any future agenda items. I believe Vice Mayor Burdock has one.
Nobody else? Yeah, I brought it up previously. Now that we're at mid-year, I was wondering if we could revisit on an agenda funding for the Clearlake Chamber. We would like to align more with the marketing committee here at the city, and I think there's a lot more work we could do. It's difficult just working off of internal revenue coming in from our membership, and I think it would really behoove both the chamber and the city if we aligned and if we could fund it. If I have consensus for that.
Yeah, I'm okay with putting it on the agenda to talk about it.
Yep. All right, anybody else has any future agenda items? If not, adjourn.
Have a good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Boy,
Ray.
you were busy tonight, weren't you? Just sat there and smiled all night long.
Happened to